When you finally stop chasing the world starts chasing you. And this is the secret Rockefeller mastered before anyone else. Most people spend their entire lives seeking validation from others, desperately trying to fit into boxes that were never meant for them. But there exists a different path, one that leads to extraordinary results and genuine fulfillment. If this idea already stirred something inside you, like this video and subscribe. Here we uncover what most people never dare to say out loud, the uncomfortable truths about success that society prefers to keep hidden. There comes a moment when noise becomes unbearable. Opinions, expectations, comparisons, everything pushes you away from who you truly are. The constant barrage of social media updates, news cycles, and other people's achievements creates a mental fog that prevents you from seeing your own path clearly. But the ones who rise, the ones who build, the ones who transform their destiny, they all share the same habit. They learn to disappear into themselves, to focus so deeply that the rest of the world becomes irrelevant. This isn't about becoming antisocial or disconnected from reality. This is about understanding where your real power lies and learning to harness it effectively. John D. Rockefeller, one of history's most successful individuals, demonstrated this principle throughout his life. While others were busy competing and comparing themselves to their peers, Rockefeller was quietly building something extraordinary by maintaining laser focus on his own goals and vision. The foundation of this approach begins with strategic isolation. Greatness is never born in crowded rooms filled with distractions and competing voices. It begins in silence, where your attention stops being stolen and starts being directed toward what actually matters. When you focus solely on yourself, you stop living by reaction and start living by intention. This shift represents the difference between those who drift through life and those who actively shape their destiny. Think about every major breakthrough in human history. They weren't achieved by committees or groups seeking consensus. They came from individuals who had the courage to isolate themselves from popular opinion and pursue their unique vision. Einstein didn't develop relativity theory by following the crowd. Jobs didn't revolutionize technology by asking what everyone else thought he should do. Rockefeller didn't build his empire by conforming to existing business practices. Strategic isolation means creating boundaries around your time, energy, and attention. It means saying no to social obligations that don't serve your purpose. It means limiting your consumption of news and social media that fills your mind with other people's priorities. It means choosing carefully who gets access to your thoughts and emotions during your most productive hours. This doesn't require becoming a hermit or abandoning all relationships. Instead, it requires becoming selective about when, how, and with whom you engage. Your morning hours might be sacred time for personal development and deep work. Your evenings might be reserved for reflection and planning. Your weekends might be focused on activities that align with your long-term goals, rather than whatever social events happen to be available. The power of this approach becomes apparent when you realize how much mental energy you typically waste on things outside your control. Every time you check social media, you're allowing other people's highlight reels to influence your emotional state. Every time you engage in gossip or drama, you're investing precious mental resources in outcomes you cannot influence. Every time you seek approval or validation from others, you're giving away your power to people who may not even have your best interests at heart. Rockefeller understood that his energy was his most valuable resource. He couldn't afford to waste it on distractions or emotional reactions to external circumstances. Instead, he channeled everything toward building his vision of what was possible. This single-minded focus allowed him to see opportunities that others missed and execute strategies that others considered impossible. The second crucial element involves cutting the invisible chains that keep most people trapped in mediocrity. These chains aren't physical barriers. They're emotional and psychological attachments to things that limit your potential. Most people stay stuck because they are emotionally tied to judgments, approval, and noise that constantly pulls them away from their true path. Consider how much of your daily mental energy goes toward worrying about what others think of your choices. When you're deciding whether to start a new business, change careers, or pursue an unconventional goal, how often do you find yourself imagining the reactions of family members, friends, or colleagues? This mental energy could be redirected toward actually making progress on your goals, instead of managing other people's potential opinions. Rockefeller understood something crucial that most people never grasp. Freedom begins when you stop giving your energy to what you cannot control and reclaim everything you can. You cannot control other people's opinions about your life choices, but you can control how much attention you give to those opinions. You cannot control market conditions or economic downturns, but you can control how you respond to them and what actions you take. This principle extends to every area of life. You cannot control whether people appreciate your work, but you can control the quality and consistency of your effort. You cannot control whether opportunities come your way, but you can control how prepared you are when they arrive. You cannot control external circumstances, but you can control your internal response to those circumstances. The invisible chains that bind most people are forged from years of conditioning that taught them to seek external validation instead of internal satisfaction. From childhood, we're taught to perform for approval, to modify our behavior based on others' reactions, and to measure our worth by external metrics like grades, salaries, or social status. Breaking these chains requires conscious effort and consistent practice. Start by identifying the areas where you give away your power most frequently. Maybe you spend too much time scrolling through social media, comparing your life to carefully curated images of others. Maybe you avoid pursuing certain goals because you're worried about what people will say if you fail. Maybe you stay in situations that don't serve you because changing would mean disappointing someone's expectations. Each of these patterns represents an opportunity to reclaim your focus and redirect it toward what actually matters to you. When you stop seeking approval for your choices, you free up tremendous mental and emotional energy that can be invested in making those choices better. When you stop comparing yourself to others, you can focus on your own progress and development without the distraction of irrelevant benchmarks. This leads to the third fundamental shift: becoming your own standard of measurement. When you stop measuring your life by what others expect, you unlock a completely different level of clarity about what success means to you personally. The race becomes internal rather than external. The victories become personal rather than performative. And the transformation becomes inevitable because you're no longer fighting against your own nature. Most people live their entire lives trying to meet standards set by others, whether those standards come from family expectations, cultural norms, or societal pressure. They choose careers based on what others consider prestigious, rather than what genuinely interests them. They buy houses and cars to impress neighbors, rather than because these purchases align with their actual values and priorities. They stay in relationships that look good from the outside, but don't provide genuine fulfillment or growth. Rockefeller operated by different rules. He defined success on his own terms and pursued that definition regardless of what others thought about his methods or goals. This allowed him to make decisions based on long-term strategic thinking rather than short-term social approval. While others were concerned about immediate recognition or popular opinion, he was building systems and structures that would create value for decades. When you become your own standard, you develop the ability to evaluate your choices based on their actual impact on your life, rather than their appearance to others. You can pursue goals that genuinely excite you, even if they seem unconventional or risky to people around you. You can make sacrifices in the short term because you're clear about the long-term benefits you're working toward. This internal compass becomes especially valuable during difficult periods when external circumstances seem discouraging. If your sense of progress depends on other people's recognition or approval, you'll be constantly vulnerable to their changing opinions and moods. But when your standard is internal, you can maintain momentum even when others don't understand or support your direction. The process of developing your own standard requires honest self-reflection about what you actually value versus what you think you should value. Many people discover that their supposed goals are actually borrowed from others and don't reflect their authentic interests or strengths. They might be pursuing financial success because society values wealth, but they actually find fulfillment in creative expression or helping others. They might be seeking romantic relationships because they think they should want them, but they actually thrive in periods of independence and solitude. This doesn't mean ignoring feedback or advice from others entirely. It means developing the discernment to distinguish between input that serves your authentic goals and input that pulls you away from them. Some criticism might contain valuable insights that help you improve your approach. Other criticism might reflect the critic's own limitations or fears rather than any genuine problem with your direction. Rockefeller was known for listening carefully to advisors and experts, but he made final decisions based on his own analysis and judgment. He gathered information from multiple sources but didn't allow any single voice to override his internal compass. This balance between openness to input and independence of judgment allowed him to benefit from others' expertise without being controlled by their opinions. The fourth, and perhaps most counterintuitive principle, is understanding how the world responds when you operate this way. Ironically, When you detach from seeking the world's opinions, the world starts paying attention to what you're building. This happens because focused effort produces results that speak for themselves, and results command respect in ways that seeking approval never can. Focus builds mastery through consistent, deliberate practice over extended periods. When you're not constantly distracted by external validation or criticism, you can invest your full attention in developing your skills and knowledge. This concentrated effort compounds over time, creating expertise that becomes increasingly valuable and difficult to replicate. Mastery builds power because people naturally gravitate toward those who demonstrate competence and confidence in their chosen areas. When you become genuinely excellent at something important, others seek your input and guidance. They want to learn from your experience and benefit from your expertise. This creates opportunities for influence and impact that you could never achieve by simply trying to please everyone. Power, when earned through genuine competence rather than political maneuvering, makes the world come to you rather than requiring you to chase after opportunities. Clients seek out your services. Employers compete for your talents. Collaborators want to work with you on meaningful projects. This attraction happens naturally because you've developed something valuable that others recognize and appreciate. The key insight is that this process works in reverse order from what most people expect. They think they need to network and promote themselves to get opportunities, then use those opportunities to develop skills, then eventually achieve mastery. But the most sustainable path works the opposite way. First, you develop mastery through focused effort. Then the mastery creates opportunities. Then the opportunities lead to natural networking and recognition. Rockefeller exemplified this principle throughout his career. He didn't start by trying to become famous or well-connected. He started by becoming exceptionally good at understanding and optimizing business systems. His mastery of these systems created opportunities for growth and expansion. Those opportunities led to results that commanded attention and respect from peers and competitors alike. This approach requires patience because the results aren't immediately visible to others. While you're in the development phase, building skills and knowledge, it might appear to outside observers that nothing significant is happening. They might question your choices or suggest that you should be more active in promoting yourself or seeking recognition. But this period of apparent inactivity is actually when the most important work is being done. The compound effect of focused effort means that progress often appears to happen suddenly, even though it's actually the result of consistent work over long periods. People might say you became successful overnight, but you know that success was years in the making. The overnight appearance is just when the results finally become visible to others who weren't paying attention during the development process. This dynamic creates a natural filtering system in your life. People who can't see or appreciate the work you're doing during the development phase tend to dismiss or ignore you. But people who recognize quality and potential are drawn to what you're building. This means you end up surrounded by individuals who share your values and understand your approach, rather than people who need constant entertainment or validation. The psychological benefits of this approach extend far beyond external success. When you operate from internal standards and focus on your own development, you develop genuine self-confidence that doesn't depend on other people's opinions. You know what you're capable of because you've proven it to yourself through consistent action and improvement. This inner security allows you to take risks and pursue opportunities that others might avoid, because they're too concerned about potential failure or criticism. You also develop emotional resilience that serves you well during inevitable setbacks and challenges. When your sense of identity and worth isn't tied to external validation, temporary failures don't devastate your self-concept. You can view mistakes as learning opportunities rather than personal catastrophes. This emotional stability allows you to bounce back more quickly and maintain momentum toward your long-term goals. The process of focusing primarily on yourself also clarifies your authentic values and priorities. When you're not constantly reacting to external pressures and expectations, you have space to discover what genuinely matters to you. You might find that some goals you thought were important were actually borrowed from others and don't reflect your true interests. You might discover talents and passions that were buried under layers of social conditioning and others' expectations. This clarity becomes a tremendous source of energy and motivation. When you're pursuing goals that align with your authentic self, the work feels meaningful rather than burdensome. You can sustain effort over longer periods because the activity itself provides satisfaction, not just the eventual results. This intrinsic motivation proves much more reliable than external motivators like money, recognition, or approval. The ripple effects of this focused approach extend into every area of your life. Your relationships improve because you attract people who appreciate your authentic self, rather than trying to maintain connections based on performance or pleasing others. Your health improves because you make decisions based on what actually serves your well-being rather than what others expect or pressure you to do. Your finances improve because you make choices aligned with your values rather than trying to keep up with others' spending patterns. Even your creative output improves when you stop seeking approval and start expressing your genuine perspective. Art, writing, business ideas, and innovations emerge more freely when you're not filtering everything through the question of what others will think. This authenticity often produces work that resonates more deeply with others because it comes from a genuine place rather than calculated attempts to please or impress. The ultimate paradox of this approach is that by caring less about what the world thinks, you often end up contributing more to the world. When you develop your abilities to their fullest potential and pursue goals that genuinely excite you, you create value that benefits others as well as yourself. Your work becomes a gift to the world rather than a performance for approval. Rockefeller's legacy demonstrates this principle clearly. His focus on building efficient systems and creating value ultimately benefited millions of people through the energy infrastructure he developed. His philanthropic efforts, funded by his business success, contributed to advances in education, medicine, and scientific research that continue to benefit society today. None of this would have been possible if he had been primarily concerned with popular opinion or immediate social approval. The practical application of these principles starts with small, consistent changes in how you allocate your daily attention and energy. Begin by identifying the activities, relationships, and commitments that drain your energy without contributing to your authentic goals. Create boundaries around your most productive hours, protecting them from interruptions and distractions that serve others' agendas more than your own. Develop routines and habits that support your long-term development, rather than providing immediate gratification or social validation. This might mean choosing books over social media, exercise over entertainment, or skill development over casual socializing. These choices compound over time, creating dramatic differences in your capabilities and opportunities. Practice making decisions based on your internal compass, rather than external pressure. When facing choices, ask yourself what option best serves your long-term vision, rather than what would make others happy or avoid their disapproval. This doesn't mean ignoring the impact of your choices on others, but it means weighing that impact against your authentic values and priorities. Remember that this process takes time and patience. The benefits aren't immediately visible, and there may be periods when others question your choices, or when you doubt the path yourself. But consistency in applying these principles creates momentum that becomes increasingly powerful over time. At the end of the journey, there is only one truth that matters. Everything changes when you change your focus from seeking external validation to developing internal excellence. The world responds to competence, authenticity, and value creation in ways that it never responds to people-pleasing or approval-seeking behavior. Comment, I choose myself to seal this message in your mind and commit to applying these principles in your own life. Like and share this video if it provided value and helped you see a different path forward. Your engagement helps us reach others who are ready for this message. And remember this final truth that Rockefeller understood better than most. The quieter your focus becomes, the louder your results speak. While others are making noise about their intentions and seeking attention for their efforts, you can be quietly building something extraordinary that will eventually speak for itself through the value it creates and the impact it has on the world around you.